It's no block, no rock.
Go Big Red indeed. No block, no rock. Season 5, episode 21.
Jared's birthday episode.
How long have you been waiting to say that, Mike?
Well, since it was your birthday. Yeah. So.
Yes, it is indeed my birthday.
Today?
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. It's just another day, okay? That's all it is. It is just another day in the life of me.
Of you.
And I'm here in the NBNR studios without Connor. There's no Connor. But
He didn't want to come to your birthday party. This is your
know-
birthday party. We have a special guest for your birthday party.
I'll take it. I'll take this over Connor any day. But before we get too deep into this, guys, I'm gonna throw it over to Mike because he's gonna talk about our main sponsor.
Yes, our main sponsor is the Nebraska Brewing Company. Today I'm drinking the Ale Storm. It is a beer that is crafted for the Omaha Storm Chasers, the AAA affiliate of my favorite baseball team, the Kansas City Royals. So one of my favorite beers there. It's no EOS Hefeweizen, but it'll do. KB, he's back on the train.
I'm back.
Yeah, he
I'm
is
back
back.
on the
He's
train.
back. He did get an EOS today.
Yeah,
So.
EOS. It's good when it's cold, hot, whatever it is outside. That's the beer. That's the go-to.
There it is.
Yep.
Yes. So Nebraska Brewing Company, world class.
In every glass. All right. Now look, people that are watching, we got Jessica Coody with us.
Hello.
Jessica Coody. Now, I'm looking at your titles. There's a handful of titles you go by.
I didn't know what to put on the description.
Yeah. With the Huskers radio network. When people go up to you and they ask you what's your preferred title? What is your preferred title?
I don't know. I'm same way. I get confused too. It's,
Yeah.
I do a lot of different things, wear a lot of different hats, but hey, whatever you call me, I'll typically answer to it if it's nice.
Most things, yeah. So before we went on air, we had talked about how previously, how long ago did we have DB on? It was
last year.
Yeah.
Before the season started, I think.
So Damon Benning, for those who don't know who DB is, pretty prominent media guy, former Husker.
Yeah, he dabbles.
He dabbles.
Don't inflate the ego any more than it already is.
Like, even if I downplay DB, he'll still find a way to, inflate himself. But you said that you had a little story.
Oh, we're going right in.
We're diving in. We got the
Right
audience.
in. Okay.
This is the hook.
Wow. Okay. I thought we were gonna maybe ease into it a little bit.
We don't ease in anything here. Now, unless you're going to get in trouble. I don't want you to get in trouble.
No, he's told the story on himself because we all went through this thinking we were going to, keep it within the group. It was not going to leave the family. We were going to keep it a secret. Nobody's going to know about it. But then the next thing I know, he's sharing the story himself. So he's told it from his perspective. So I like to get my perspective out there.
Okay.
So it was last year at Minnesota. And I actually had a cousin that was doing a traveling nursing gig up there. So I was hanging out with her. She was going to drop me off at the stadium. So Ben McLaughlin, who does a pregame show with DB, and then Greg went on the early bus and they're already there. They're set up and whatnot. And so we had gone the day before and we usually go the day before and get the booth set up, but David doesn't go to that. So he didn't know where he was going. And so Ben and Greg already there. And Damon got an Uber and was headed to the stadium. And I actually was walking back to the hotel and saw him and he's like, all right, I'll see you there. So I'm getting these texts from Greg, like, Damon's not here. He can't find us. He's roaming around the stadium. he can't find the 6th floor, and I guess this goes on for like an hour. And I don't know, I have no idea what's going on. But he's apparently wandering around the stadium somewhere.
Kind of like regular fans do when they don't know where to go.
Yeah. Come to find out, he went to the Minnesota Vikings stadium, not the Minnesota Gophers stadium.
Come on, man.
So he's just like, I don't know if like the purple didn't give it away, if like the fact that there was nobody there, and he's asking this woman how to get to the press, the radio booth, and they're like, well, we don't have a 6th floor, and anyway, so I have again, I'm just kind of getting the text messages from Greg. next thing you know, my cousin and I are driving to the stadium. She's going to drop me off, and I see DB on the sidewalk. He's like on the phone. You could tell he's stressed out.
Oh, yeah.
And I told my cousin, Harley, pull over. We got to pick that guy up. And so
this weird guy on the side of the road. This angry guy on the side of the road.
We barely make it to the stadium. And then, of course, I'm trying to tell him where to go. He wasn't there the day before, but he's like, I know where to go. Of course, we go the long way. We can't get in. Then it takes him 25 minutes to get through security. He is sitting down and Ben is in the open. So, but yeah, so that's the DB wrong stadium story. But we had to pull over and pick him up and get him to the stadium in time for the pregame show.
Well, we almost had you at the wrong studio, the one that's behind Domino's. So
well,
it's
I
fine.
was going in the kitchen at Domino's. So
I feel like she has a better excuse than DB.
Well, that's just
it's kind
bad
of confusing.
communication. So
you said the back of the building next to Domino's in the playpen area. So I go to the back of the building. It was the building across from that.
Yeah, like in the neighborhood, you're just wandering around people's front yard.
The Domino's folks are just like looking at who's that person just walking around the lawn in the back.
My bad. I need to have like a canned message of exactly where it's at.
Like specific instructions, but there's going to be some security footage of me just wandering around the back of those buildings back there.
A strange woman in front of Domino's. I think she wants pizza. I don't know.
I love Domino's.
Hey, Domino's is pretty good.
We've had it many times because we can just walk across the street and grab it. So it's not bad when we're in a pinch.
It's very convenient.
Yeah.
If we can't get our normal arrangement from Hurrdat Sports Bar.
Yeah.
Plug.
Hey, shout out to them.
Hi, Domino's.
And then you can go exercise and swim it off at the pool.
Yeah.
Right.
Never done it.
Everything that you need is in this shopping center.
And Kyle, he knows the slides at Playful Pines really well.
Really well.
And if you need to get your back cracked, we got this.
We are in kinetic chiropractic. So,
and if you guys didn't want anybody to know where your studio is, now everybody knows.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine. Come on in.
We embrace the chaos. So just get into you a little bit. You know, you're an Oklahoma native. A lot of people might not know that. And you, in fact, had spent 9 years with Oklahoma University covering their athletics. You come to Nebraska, and look, the move from Oklahoma to Nebraska might not seem like a huge difference, but I think a lot of people might ask you, why Nebraska?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was that time in my career is kind of looking for the next step. And I just, it really appealed to me, the fact that, and you guys and I were talking about this before we were recording, just the fact that you have this perspective of Husker Nation. I think across the country, there's this appreciation and understanding of, man, that's the best fan base in college sports. But I don't think you get a full sense of it until you're like really here and embedded in it. But what really drew me to it was the fact that, I'm very passionate about women's sports, and the fact that the fan base here really, really cares about their women's sports.
Absolutely.
The volleyball and my first year here was the women's basketball year. They end up going back to the NCAA tournament and softball. And so it just, it's awesome that there's so much support for that, because you do not find that across the country. There might be places where they're big fans of one women's sport, but across the board, all of the women's sports, to have this support here. I mean, last year, Nebraska led the nation in attendance in the four main women's sports: in soccer, volleyball, women's basketball, and softball, that you sell tickets for, that you can actually count those tickets. And I guarantee you, if you threw in gymnastics in there, they would also have a pretty high attendance too. So the fact that, it's not just about just one sport that they might be good at. It's people are invested in all the women's sports here, not just even the women's sports, but it's across the board. I mean, people love their baseball around here. Now that Fred's got some things rolling with the men's basketball team, obviously the atmosphere is, we keep hearing it from every guy that transfers in. Like Connor Sejan told me that this was his favorite atmosphere that he played in as a competitor, and that it was the loudest atmosphere that he played in. So I think that was really what drew me to that. And I had never done radio before in my life.
Wow.
And I was doing more TV, and while it wasn't scripted with a prompter, it just is so much different. Like, you don't know when you do radio, you have no idea what you're going to talk about. I mean, there's one time Greg and it was, I think, my first year or second year here, and not sure who was coming into town, but we were talking about, rushing the field. And next thing you know, we were doing 2 hours of Sports Nightly talking about people that have rushed the field and going back and revisiting when the goalpost was going down O Street. And it is, you know, so it's just, so you don't really know. And so it's, it was an adjustment for sure. And, man, cannot thank Greg enough for being so patient with me and, working me in and, you know, helping me find my voice, because I mean, I really had no idea what I was doing, but, started the podcast too and love that and able to just like really interview student athletes and tell their stories outside of what they do as an athlete. And so that's been really fun. And, you know, the Husker Women's Wednesday, and again, just the highlighting the women's sports too. So obviously it's huge football and that's great, but I love that it's about all the sports here. That was probably the number one thing that I was really excited about when I took this job, and just you know, another new challenge for me, and I love it. So
I would say it's quite a new challenge, because it seems like you are everywhere doing all sorts of different jobs.
Absolutely.
You've got the radio, you've got your reporting during games. Like, so talk to me a little bit about the preparation that it takes, like getting ready for all the things that happen inside the venues, right? So like you're talking to players. One of my colleagues had mentioned you being like at the coin toss for Colorado and what that was like, and just being everywhere all the time, it seems like.
yeah, I think a lot of it too is the more that you're embedded with it, the less I have to spend diving into studying, you know, and a lot of what I do on the sideline is less about, this is what I did not like doing sideline reporting for television before. And then, but I love doing it for radio, because you have a lot of opportunities to contribute, and I'm seeing things and able to contribute in ways that, you know, the guys in the booth they can't see and hear. And so, you know, a lot of what I do is less about, you know, sometimes Greg might toss down to me because he knows that I have had a conversation with an athlete that I could, you know, bring that perspective. But for the most part, it is what I'm seeing and hearing. And so it's more so just kind of staying locked in and really just trying to, I really try to listen to what Damon and Greg are talking about, or Lane, the last couple of games. What are they saying? And so then maybe I can go listen to a huddle and then provide that perspective. And then, you know, a lot of times we're having conversations in the breaks that I'm passing along, and some information that you might not even hear me say it, but I passed it along. So a lot of times with the game day stuff, the sideline reporting for the radio, it's more so kind of what I'm doing that day and just staying locked in on that and just trying to follow the big storylines of the day. For certain interviews that I do, I really try to get to know, you know, dive in. And I like to say I've become an expert stalker, you know, just Googling and on their social media, but just, you know, again, finding what makes them tick outside of sports and what are the things that they're passionate about, because everybody has a story. Everybody has something that makes them them. And I found that a lot of times they want to share that they're more than just an athlete. And so just finding that and however we can talk about that, whatever that story might be. So I'll dive into that. There are sometimes I might sit down and do an interview with a coach or an athlete that I'm not as familiar with that sport. So I'll do some research there. But a lot of it is just kind of watching and the games and then taking notes along the way. And I learn a lot so I did not know volleyball before I got here, because volleyball is not big in Oklahoma at all.
Very good.
Yeah. Well, and it's just it's not as big in high school, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just such a big sport here in the state, and it's just not like that. And because in Oklahoma, it's softball, and they're really good at softball. Yeah, and they also play softball in the fall. So they play their fast pitch and then they play slow pitch in the spring, which is crazy. I think only 2 states, but so there just weren't a lot of high schools that played volleyball. The college itself, OU, was not as good when I was there. And so I had to learn a lot about the game, and Lauren Cook-West is the best. I mean, I listen to her and JB and just really learn a lot. That's one of the main sports that I mute the TV and listen to them, because I learned so much from listening to her. And there are times and with, you know, when I do the dig or whatever, hey, this might sound like a stupid question, but a lot of times I'm getting asked that too, because I think with volleyball too, there's so many new fans. There's a lot of older fans that have know the sport so well and really can understand it in a way. But then because it's growing, there's a lot of new fans. So I think and that's what I found too, that the coaches are so open and the staff to me asking anything, because they want to provide that perspective to the new fans too, because they realize that it is such a growing sport that we do have new fans. So yeah, I mean, I think probably more so with some of the interviews, I might do some research, just trying to find new things. I always try to ask things that they have not been asked.
Yeah.
That's kind of my goal going into things. And so I might do a little research there, but I don't know. It's kind of a day-to-day thing for me. Depending on what I have going on, how much time I have to prepare for the next thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The
Yeah.
ultimate Swiss Army knife for the University of Nebraska. Jessica Coody. Look at
Yeah.
that right
Thank
here.
you.
Yeah.
I try to be.
Yeah. And for those, I mean, to your point about volleyball, it is like a whole nother world. You watch volleyball and it's like, wow, this is cool. I've grown pretty close with the Omaha Supernovas. I'm like their lead videographer. So I've been able to ask like up close, like, if you're the setter, what is your job? Who are you talking to? What are you doing here? And they're like, oh, well, in the middle of the play, the person that receives is sending to the setter, and the setter is talking to the hitter who's telling them where to put I'm like, what? It is like a whole thing that I don't think a lot of people understand.
Yeah, it seems like it's just, oh, you set it and then you spike it. No. They're running.
There's
they're talking
zones
about in
and-
transition and all kind. Oh yeah, running their offense. I mean, there are so many nuances that I'm still learning, but it is it's fun. Obviously, it's a great program to learn from too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, a ball is coming towards your face, and
Yeah.
if you don't
Okay.
stop it,
Here, would you rather try to dig a ball coming from Andy Jackson or try to hit a fastball coming from Jordy Ball?
I'm not getting. Am I getting hit?
I
with
would
the
rather
fastball?
dig a ball from Andy Jackson.
Oh,
Just because I play indoor volleyball. So
Okay.
I would rather I would be less scared to do that. And that's still scary because
Yeah.
Andy Jackson, she is awesome. But no, Jordy Ball would strike me out 100 times out of 100. So
oh, for sure.
My dad and I actually had that conversation at Christmas. We were talking about that because the volleyball team was on. So we just, which would you rather do? I'm like, I don't want to do either.
well, I definitely don't want to do either. But if I had to pick my poison, that's the poison I'm going to die with.
I will say I did get some like good news. I asked Caitlin Horde and Kayla Caffey at our media day for the Supernovas. I said, out of 10 serves, how many do you think I could receive, like successfully keep in the air? They said, oh, well, you'd keep it in the air, but you're not aiming it anywhere. I said, okay, well, at least I can keep it up. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
At least you made contact.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, like sticking with the women's sports thing, I don't think we make it a mystery that the majority of the time we talk about Husker football.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but
Hence the title.
indeed,
Yes.
yes,
No block, no
but
rock.
we make it there's no mistaking that women's sports at the university, for the large part, ever since we've started,
Yes.
their back has been hurting for a while.
They've been carrying this
Like-
program.
No offense to the football team, and baseball, they did something nice this past year.
It was fun.
And basketball looks like Hoiberg's got his identity figured out. But man, I'm telling you, before that, it was, what is volleyball doing? What volleyball's back is hurting. We got to help them out.
Yeah.
Softball's been pretty good. So thank you, women, for at least giving respect to the state.
Soccer team went to the Elite Eight last
Right.
year, so.
Telling you,
Everything is trending in the right direction, men and women's sports right now, which is a good thing.
it looks
Yeah.
it looks like the university and just the large part, and you're there every day. It seems like it's a lot more stable. The coaching staffs seem to be more entrenched. For so many years, it's been revolving door, but it just seems a lot more stable now. I mean, do you get that sense?
Yeah, and it's such a cool camaraderie, and I think you'll hear a lot of the coaches say this too, but again, coming from somebody that was at a different program, I think the training table was just so genius, and the fact that it's maintained being such an important thing, because it allows for this community where you'll see all these different athletes that fortunately I get to eat in there. It is so good, and especially at the new facility. So you'll walk in and you'll see all these different athletes kind of interacting and mingling, and then the different coaches, and so it's just it really is a sense of family, and they support each other. It's just cool to see the relationships, and they're so happy to see each other succeed. I mean, they are each other's biggest cheerleaders. you'll hear coaches say a lot of times, I think maybe it was Coach Rule. I'm not even sure who it was that said one of the first texts he got was from Mark Manning and Brett Hoiberg. And so they're constantly in communication with each other. And Amy Williams has talked about some of the coaches that have been mentors for her. And so I think they're so willing to help each other out, but also support each other. And you can feel that certainly on campus. And, I think it's really cool. I think a big part of just the family feel is that, and that's been a big thing for Coach Rule's breaking bread together, but this has been something that's happened at Nebraska for a long time. And I think that's why you see such a tight-knit group because of that, because you have that opportunity to get to dine together, 3 times a day, a lot of times, or, it's hopping there at lunch or at dinner, so it's a cool thing that I think that allows, but I think it's this coaching, the top to bottom, the coaches that Nebraska have, they're incrediable people. They're so great to work with. Don't ask me my favorite because I couldn't tell you.
What's your favorite right now?
There's no way. I would list all of them. Like here's, all of
cheating.
Them. Yeah,
it's copping out.
I couldn't because they're just such great people, so great to work with, and so yeah, it's Nebraska's got a good bunch for sure. And I'm not even biased saying that.
That's good.
Maybe a little bit.
I mean, you should be though, right? Like you get the opportunity. You're like living a lot of like young broadcasters, kids growing up that want to be behind the camera, behind the microphone. You're living their dream, and you get to tell stories of student athletes outside of their sports. Like I think it's awesome. Like people should envy what you do, and you do such a good job at it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, Mike. We'll keep on this theme.
Keep on the theme.
More about you. Growing up in Oklahoma, did you always know you wanted to do this? Or was this kind of like you're kind of like a late bloomer? Or did you know like from the jump, you're like, this is my bag right here?
Actually, I wanted to be a dolphin trader at SeaWorld.
How old were you when you wanted?
Like till 8th grade.
Okay.
No, I played sports. Basketball was my first love. For both my ACLs, unfortunately, but yeah.
At the same time?
No.
Okay.
I tore
I
tore the first one, and then they actually, my doctor told me there's a 90% chance you're going to tear the other one, and sure enough, I did. So I wiped them both out. But so that's why it kills me to see anybody go down with knee injuries. But my dad was a basketball coach and a teacher. My mom was also an educator, and love the sport, but I didn't want to coach because I didn't want to have to teach. And I'm so thankful and appreciative. Obviously, I've got 2 parents that are in the education field, but that was just not going to be for me. And so I remember I was watching a football game at the time with my dad and brother, and there was a sideline reporter, a female at the time, that was on the sideline, and like, oh, that kind of be cool. Yeah. What's a way to stick around sports, that's not coaching and teaching. And so I was from that day on. And I think that's what I always tell young female broadcasters that come to me and talk about wanting to be, a sideline reporter on ESPN. That's great if that's what you want to do. But I think it's changed so much within the last 5-10 years where, for me, that's what women were doing was sideline reporting. But now there's so many different roles that women can be in sports broadcasting that's where I was like, I'm going to be a sideline reporter on ESPN. But then at once my career started changing and evolving, I realized that there were more things that I wanted to do and learn how to do, and that I enjoy doing even more so than, that. So, keep an open mind is what I always say, but it's a great goal, but that's all a lot of times that's where you saw women was on the sideline. So now that there's so many different ways for women to be involved in sports broadcasting, it's so many doors are open, and it's really, the opportunities are limitless now. So, but yeah, so that's kind of where it started. I was like, oh, okay, that'll be fun. And so, yeah, that's, once I switched from being a dolphin trainer to sideline reporter on ESPN, I stuck with sports broadcasting ever since that. So,
no regrets?
No regrets.
God, I hope not.
The Dolphins are missing out, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Look, SeaWorld.
There's some bad things.
Listen,
when you're a kid, you don't know that SeaWorld is bad. You're just petting the dolphins.
The dolphins are cute, but
there's lots of dolphins in Oklahoma too. So,
Oh, yeah. I really was going to have to go get a marine biology degree somewhere on the ocean. I'm like, maybe not.
Maybe not.
So.
Okay, so growing up, watching sports, who are your sports heroes, broadcast heroes? Who you grew up watching?
So crazy enough, Stacey Dales was one of the best, probably the best player, one of the best at Oklahoma, has her jersey retired. Then she went on and obviously started doing sports broadcasting. Now she's on the NFL Network. So she's kind of like one and the same. I love watching her play and then love watching her broadcasting career. So, yeah, I mean, I think broadcasting wise, starting out, my hero was Tom Rinaldi. You know, I think I had a goal to make people cry. You know?
Yeah, he's always doing the like sentimental
piano
backstory.
music underneath. Yeah. So when I first started doing, that's always been my passion is doing those kinds of stories. And I was doing obviously the more TV type feature stories before. And so that's really was kind of the first, I guess, influence in that regard was Tom Rinaldi. So yeah.
Okay.
I think those would be the two that I would immediately think too.
Through all your like interviewing and like whether it's for Sports Nightly or pregame, postgame, like have you ever run into a situation where maybe emotions are high, tensions are high or whatever, and you don't necessarily get what you're wanting to get? Like how much of your job is kind of just kind of improvising on the spot?
All of it.
You know what I
All of
mean?
it.
Because you did kind of mention that how like you're on the radio show and you just go down a rabbit hole. And I think sometimes we try to stick to a little bit of a script here.
We went off the rails
I
last
think
night.
we've already been down like 3 rabbit holes here
I
tonight.
know.
So
But I don't know. I mean, I guess the question I want to ask you is, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you face every day in your job?
not having enough time in the day.
Mm.
I think I am such a perfectionist. I'm so hard on myself, and I want to do a good job for these student athletes, for these coaches, for these programs. And so, sometimes I find that I'm like, gosh, I feel like I'm just like winging it sometimes, and which I feel like there's a lot of things that I was not very good at that I've had to really work at and develop. But one thing that I feel like I've always been okay at is interviewing and asking questions, which is why I think going back to the beginning, why telling those feature stories and kind of getting to know the student athletes has always been probably my favorite part of the job, and something that I think came a little bit easier for me than some of the other things. Like I was terrible on TV when I first started. I just was not very comfortable, especially anchoring and all of that. So I think that had to develop for me with more reps, but I think I was always decent at asking questions. And so for me, I try to listen. And I think sometimes you start thinking about what am I going to ask next instead of listening to what they're saying. And so a lot of times I can get a follow-up from that is just kind of listening. And so, but I don't know. I don't even know how that's developed for me, the asking the questions, but for the most part, I haven't had a situation where I was like, oh boy, this is bad.
Yeah.
I mean, there obviously are some, but for the most part, there's not one where I'm like, well, that's not terrible,
Yeah.
So,
Well, you kind of closed down my next question. I was going to ask, hosting Sports Nightly, there's obviously a lot of passionate fans. Like, have you had any like memorable interactions that you're like, oh, how do I walk this line?
Yeah.
That's a Matt Coatney question for Big Red Reaction. You guys should have him on.
Well,
he would have some stories for Big Red Reaction, because we have a dump button, where if someone cusses or something, you gotta
See, how many times have you hit that button?
I have not hit it ever.
Really?
I really wish I could. Could you guys call in and like
Yeah,
get a
I
little
know.
rowdy and so I can
See how quick you are on the trigger there.
I will say it was this would have been like, it was before COVID. I used to call in on the radio to win things, and it was like guess the song or whatever. And I knew the song and I guessed it wrong, and they hit that button on me because I was like, I throw out this bad word, and I was like, oh, I'm on the radio. they kicked me off. So yeah, I know all about that button.
Yeah. So there's obviously a 15-second delay so that if you cuss, we get out of it. Then
Yeah.
15.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I found that out.
That's good to know. 15 seconds.
Yeah, you got 15 seconds, so you better delay it.
Yeah. You better delay when it comes out of my mouth.
Yeah.
So like a show like Big Red Reaction, gosh, I got to think doing that, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right?
I've not done it.
Do you want to do something like that?
I don't know. I think Coatney does a fantastic job. I think he manages everything so well and involves a different guest and is able to be a little bit honest, but also, toe the line there.
Right.
That's a hard job, and I think Coatney's a man for that job.
That's good.
That would be a very, very hard job for me to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like,
You,
after
get a little
Minnesota
nuts.
last year, we went to Minnesota and we had the
We saw
whole
DD
car
Wonder.
ride back. We had the whole car ride back
Yeah.
to listen to all the overreaction shows. And man,
Oh,
it was brutal. I mean, it was like full on counseling sessions, and I
Yeah.
can't even imagine. And so that kind of actually brings me into a question for you is like, what does the delicacy look like for after a hard loss and you have to go talk to somebody, like coming up with questions that are delicate enough and that make sense and aren't just like, hey, how are you feeling?
But
after,
somewhat challenging in a
Yeah.
way.
yeah,
but
because as long as we've done this since 2020, it's been a lot of one score losses and some heartbreaking seasons and things like that for a lot of guys that have poured their heart and souls into their program, specifically football, obviously. But what does that look like for you in talking to those players after a hard loss?
Yeah, well, I go back to the first year. It was the 2021 year, and they keep everything was close, right? And
Yeah.
it just was, as Will Compton likes to say, what the best
3-9 team.
3-loss
Ugh.
team in college football history. But
That's true.
they played so well a lot of the time that and they're right there in so many games that you could find positives that you could ask, and you have a lot of the leaders too, like Cam Taylor-Britt, JoJo Doman, that year that were always willing. I'm so thankful that there are so many guys like that have been willing to talk to me after some of those tough losses, and some of those leaders that will be willing to be the voice. And I will ask them some of the harder questions, but I'm also not going to like completely berate them either. Like, I mean, I'm obviously the Homer broadcast and part of the team broadcast, so I'm not going to. But I mean, I'll ask them sometimes, like, what happened there? What's this issue? How do you get this fixed? But I also think just finding there's going to be positives, right? In just about every game. And so if you find some of those positives and let them talk about that, how do you build on that? And there's with Coach Rule does such a good job of we're going to celebrate this tonight, or and then it's 1-0 on to the next. And so you can ask them about that, how that approach works. And so there's always something you can ask for. It's not just straight up,
You lost.
what the heck happened?
Yeah.
So I think I always try to find a couple of positive nuggets that were in there and try to hit on that. And then moving forward, what are the things you can build off of? What are the things you learn? Stuff like that, that most of the guys have been very willing to answer and talk to me about. But I think a lot of that too is just, because I'm around so much, I do so many interviews, and a lot of them I'm doing long form interviews with, where I get to know them a little bit more. They're maybe more comfortable with me and maybe more open.
Right.
So I can ask them some things too, and don't feel I hate it. I wish I could do all winning interviews, and they certainly do too, but there's so many good guys. And each year I'm just so thankful that there's some of those leaders, Ty Robinson this year, that were just so willing to have those conversations with me. So I've been very fortunate that I have had guys willing to get up there and be the voice for the team, that were great leaders that would do that. So
Yeah.
I can't say that it's been, it's always hard to do that kind of interview, but it's not been like, oh, this is miserable.
Yeah. This is so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I do not want to do this, or where I was not getting anybody. So I've been fortunate enough to have enough content.
So you talked to a lot of players, student athletes. Is there like one interaction or one story that like separates itself? Like, is there anything that just stuck with you that left a mark on you, I guess?
Oh man.
Nebraska, Oklahoma, whatever.
Yeah, it could be at your previous stops.
Whatever.
Well, the one that I always go to, just because it was just such a special story for me, Kenneth Murray, I think he's still a linebacker at the Rams, but
Okay. Yeah.
he was with Oklahoma. He had his family, incredible family, just the kindest human beings, but they adopted two special needs boys when Kenneth was like 8 years old, and Kenneth helped raise them, and they would come to the games, and they're nonverbal, but they were just so excited to see Kenneth, and Kenneth was so great with them. Well, just that whole story for me was just really special to tell, and it just was so uplifting. But then one of the boys ended up getting sick and passing away, and Kenneth actually, texted me and was thankful that they had that video that they could go back to and watch. So, those kinds of stories I think always stick with me, that, you tell something that means a lot to you, but then that the family can cherish for a long time. That's also special to me too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in like the grand scheme of things, you're just doing your job, making some content and telling a story. And then you get that verification later, like, whoa, that was way bigger than what I ever thought it was going to be. Like, it wasn't just something we were posting out as just a story for everybody to enjoy. Later on down the road, you're like, wow, that actually meant something to someone. Right.
Well, it's just the kind of the example that Kenneth set, that once you get to know, you just see him on Saturdays, and was arguably Oklahoma's best defensive player that year. And then you pull back the layers and you realize, how the family that he comes from and how much he's contributed to helping with the family, and his parents are just incredible people. And so he was one of my favorite athletes I ever got to work with. And that story, I think, just because of the so many different layers to it, and was certainly sticks out to me. Also, I beat Baker Mayfield in Mario Kart on the big screen. So I
look at that.
Too,
You talk about the viral video that you shot. Like, I mean, everybody knows the Baker dancing video. Like, how did that go?
Can you do it?
No, absolutely not.
Can you do the whip?
No, I can't do whip. Nay, none of that.
Okay. Well, I didn't know Baker was a walk-on at the time. He wasn't even playing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bowl game, it was a Russell Athletic Bowl, and they take different buses to go to all the different events, and it was like the specialist bus with the kickers and the specialists and the walk-ons, and so Baker was on that bus. And so we didn't know much about Baker. It was he had to redshirt that year. His story's been told, but so I was filming the kid. Obviously, if you watch the video, I'm filming the kids, and then all of a sudden they're like, Baker. And then I was like, what the heck? And then I just keep rolling on
Who's
it.
this goofball?
And then we get on the bus. I was like, do you care if I post this? And he's like, no, go ahead. And so then it had like 30 views for the longest time. And then all of a sudden they named that they're opening up the quarterback battle, and Baker's in on it. And then one of the teammates ended up ripping off my video and posting it, and then it blew up. And then now then everybody was like, I never would have imagined it was, well, especially too, we didn't even know that Baker was going to be Baker at that time.
Right.
Yeah,
Like, he was a walk-on that had not played a snap for Oklahoma at that time. So it never could have imagined that. And so then here he comes, and he's a starting quarterback. He was a gamer. Growing up, he played a lot of video games, and so play a really mean Mario Kart. Like, that's the only game I can play, but I can beat everybody in that game. Well, on the Mushroom Cup. And so he didn't know we were doing this, and so we set it up to where we could hook up the Nintendo 64 to the big screen in the stadium. And there's a little bit of a delay, and I had to practice. And so anyways, ended up beating him. It was close, but I beat him. So.
I see you.
Yeah,
hey,
that's my claim to fame.
Whatever it
There it
takes to
is.
win, man.
Yeah.
Just a little more practice.
Beat the starting quarterback for the Bucks.
If you look on when I announced that I was coming to Nebraska, he commented, congratulations, Coody. I still think Mario Kart was rigged.
Yeah.
On the comments on the photo. So
What a sore loser Baker is.
He was salty about it. So
I mean, I think everybody knows that Baker, he likes winning. So
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Mario Kart, football, whatever.
Now he caused this flag planning ordeal.
Yeah,
I mean-
so but
And yet, still beat him in Mario Kart.
I will
You'll
say, though,
always be able to say that.
He has matured a lot over the years.
He has.
I will just say, like,
Yeah.
like he was a lot of fun in games like early in his NFL career, and now I feel like he's kind of gone to the next step of like,
Yeah.
kind of like, I mean, I guess dad type.
I mean,
thing
he's
now, but
like turning into that like franchise quarterback personality,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, he was doing the commercials with the Browns, and then then he had quite the journey after that with the Panthers and the Rams, and then fighting a right home with Tampa.
He's a mature vet.
he's a dad now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, becoming a parent Mike, as
It
you well
happens.
know.
It happens. And you got to
Even though this guy hasn't become more serious.
Yeah.
as far as you know.
The other thing about Baker too, like, look, like he saw a lot of success winning the Heisman and all that, and you struggle in the NFL, and it's like,
Well,
dang,
he went to
okay,
the
this is
Browns.
The most
Yeah.
poverty franchise next to the Panthers. Thanks for Matt Rule, guys. But
he was put in a tough spot, and he's like, dang, this kind of sucks, and I know kind of what it takes. You know, you look at Tom Brady, mature guy. He never screwed around. Use him as an example. And now look at Baker.
Well,
look at
it's
him.
hard to know because their video didn't even exist when Tom Brady first started.
right. Yeah, he was probably doing dancing videos too. We don't even
That's
know.
Probably true.
Cell phones weren't camera phones weren't a thing when
Not in
I
99?
think they flipped up. They flipped up and weighed 20 pounds. Let's get more recent here.
Okay.
And let's go back to football. Pinstripe Bowl, New York City.
Mhm.
How was that experience for you?
It was cool. I had never been to Yankee Stadium. The field was interesting because I actually didn't say this on the air, but I was told that it was frozen, completely frozen when they did the walkthrough the day before. But then when the rain came, it melted, so it was super soggy and
Mess.
sloppy. And then it
Yeah.
had rained all morning, so you could just see it was just sloshing up. And then the infield, the part where they put the grass in over the infield, it's just not sticking as well. And so
See dudes just sliding
yeah.
for like 20 yards. He's still going.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, everybody that was going out of bounds just seemed to slide into the.
It was a mess, but it was cool. It was cool atmosphere. It was neat to be in New York City. And I think with so many ties with Coach Rule and Ramir going back and some of those guys that have ties to that area, you could tell they really enjoyed their time there. And I thought it was really refreshing that, is it the college football playoff? No, but you could tell that this was a team that really appreciated the experience and really took it all in. And sometimes you can, with day and age, the guys are opting out or whatnot, but this is a team that really took advantage of the opportunity for so many different positives that you'd take away from a bowl experience, the practices. And we heard time and time again, I heard every coach I talked to talked about how good the development was during that time. And think about how much of that has been missed at Nebraska for so many years now, and getting that time back with some of those young players, that young talent. So they practice so well. I mean, they all told me that, Dana Holgerson told me the night before the game that they had practiced so well and gone so hard that this was more of a kind of a maintaining. They didn't have to practice as hard in New York, so they could really, they knew that they had put in the work going into that week. So I think just overall the experience, that getting to spend that time together with each other and seeing them go out in New York City and spend that time together and all the different things that go with being in a bowl trip. I think it was really neat to see just the whole experience, even just beyond the game, and then you win the game, which is important. But I think just the whole bowl experience was so important, and I think a lot of guys took a lot away from it.
I think a situation like that is almost like red meat to someone like you, where, you got to find storylines and you got to have things to talk about with fans. And just the Ramir thing alone is just like, and I know it's cliche by this point, but that's what college sports is supposed to be about.
That's what college football fans are being starved of at this point, is watching a Ramir Johnson just stick with a program for 6 years and then have the ultimate payoff in his hometown at a bowl game to redeem the program for 8 years without a bowl game. He gets a touchdown in his home state, and then he gets the game clinching first down on 4th and 1. Like, that is the storyline that college football fans are going to miss out on with the transfer portal and the opting out and all this other stuff that's kind of going on in college football. And I think that was like the ultimate payoff for a lot of people, was watching Ramir Johnson get that glory in that game.
Well, and it's just one of those things where if you look at the box score, oh wow, Nebraska's 7-6. Wow, Ramir Johnson only had 1 touchdown. It's not like he ran for 100 yards. So what? It's like,
No, it's how he ran.
context, man. Context. So important.
He was my Cornhusker conversation going into that game, and he remembered the exact date that he signed his letter of intent.
Wow.
And said, I'm going to be loyal to the Huskers. And he actually, when he found out he had another year, he called Coach Rule and was like, hey, will you have me back? And Coach was absolutely. So he had some injuries throughout, but he was such a coach on the sideline, and him and Emmett Johnson have just such a special relationship, which is neat to see. They're so supportive of each other. So that was big, just that group of guys that stuck it out, that, Ty Robinson, Nash, those guys that could have left very easily, could have left and stuck it out. Yeah, that was another one of those stories. There's so many, but that was certainly one of the top of the list, was getting that bowl win for those guys too.
Yeah.
You got.
I mean, I think the one that quote that standing out the most with Coach Rule was talking about Nash saying that could finally walk off a winner. Like, that was like, every fan was probably clamoring to, yes,
John Bullock, you're a winner now.
You're a winner now. Like, this program, they had a winning season. And if you look at the Rule trajectory and stuff like that, like, it's starting to fall into place. And you hopefully, like, the results will show in future years. But like, you have to start somewhere. And it starts with having a winning season, winning a bowl game, going to a bowl game. So I think they did all the right steps this football season. So
every former player that I asked to say how big of a difference it is going into the offseason, coming off a win in the bowl game versus a loss. So, which is also important too. And they wanted that win bad, just to close off that year, to have some momentum to build. They said it so many times I think it's, and DB talks a lot about this, but when you have you have the messaging from the head coach, from Matt Rule, but then when it trickles down and you have your players and everybody in between echoing the same messaging, and it was the last game for the seniors, but this was the first year of 2025 is how they looked at it. So this is the first game for us that's going to set us up for this year. And so I think they really embraced that. And so it's important for them, and you could tell about they wanted it. So I'm glad they were able to hold on to it.
There's been a lot of changes to the staff that Rule has made, and much needed, I think we would say. Is there a particular new addition that you're looking forward to talking with most? New wide receivers coach, new defensive line coach, new special teams coach. We don't know who that is yet, but is there a particular new person you're looking forward to talking to?
Well, I already talked to Nikhil Shorts and Phil Simpson. Phil's awesome. Both of those guys are great. And I even just a little bit that I could see Coach Shorts on the sideline, he's going to be really good for those wide receivers. And Phil Simpson's an incredible recruiter, obviously. And he those ties to Florida, and he was talking about Cortez, and going to be special too. To go along with Ja'Cory. So great people, nice guys that just fit the overall culture and how genuine this group is. And then Coach Holgerson gets his guy. But it's crazy. That's what, Jeremiah Searles and I were talking about the other day, that it's the same, and it's the third year with Coach Rule, but there's so much new and unknown. So there's going to be a lot to look out for this spring ball with so many new coordinators and new faces. And but yeah, you still got a lot of core guys coming back from that team. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all meshes. But I, for one, cannot wait to see what Coach Holgerson continues to do with the offense coming from the Big 12, where he and I joked about that the first time I met. It's like, I was at Oklahoma when you were at West Virginia, and there was a zero defense being played. I think it ended up like, I don't know, 55-52 or something.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Landry Jones was a 4th and goal, and Tavon Austin ran all over the field, and it was crazy. But he just, with Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma and then Daniel Holgerson, they caught the air raid. People, I think, assume that it's the air raid, but it's not. He very much is such a great offensive mind that he can tailor to what the strengths of his personnel. And so he just is one of the best offensive minds in college football. And so to get more time and get what he wants to do implemented and kind of figure out how he wants to, I cannot wait to see what this offense looks like come spring and then kick off next year.
Well, we were talking about how in the bowl game, you could notice, it was definitely noticeable that they were taking more deep shots on the field, but also under Holgerson, the running game was infinitely better under him.
Just the physicality was better. Like
guys were fine. The whole quote about Holgerson, why aren't you guys blocking? Hey, running backs, run through the hole. It's right there.
You guys love that.
Yeah.
You should throw that soundbite into your open.
Yeah.
Well,
but you need that guy to just come in and go, what are you doing? What's going on? And just you just need that simplicity to where in the guy's head, it's like, oh, yeah, that is my job. What, and Holgerson just seems like a very interesting guy,
Yeah.
and I guess has there been any cool interactions with him as of late?
Well, we interviewed him on signing day, and this is another DB story, but DB asked him the question. So, West Virginia and having to earn, he basically asked like the flying and having to travel. And Coach Holgerson goes, well, have you ever heard of an airplane?
Jeez. And I can, DB's probably like, all right, coach. All right. Okay.
Yeah. We got a good laugh out of that one. So
a colorful guy, colorful character.
I told him, I was like, DB, we got airplanes going to New York.
Yeah. And you know what stadium we're going to, right?
Yeah, DB, don't get lost.
Oh, I told him we're not playing at the Mets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Playing at Yankees.
Not City Field. That's good. Going back to you, and I know we're gonna kind of wrap up here, if that's unless you have something else.
Yeah,
but you have a cool job.
Mhm.
You seem content.
Yeah.
Do you have any other goals that you want to attain, whether it be like a title or whatever? What are your like long-term goals, do you think? Or are you pretty content with what you're doing right now?
I'm very content. And I think that's with this business and this industry, it just always kind of looking at what's next. But I am so happy with where I'm at and, being where my feet are right now and just enjoying this what I'm doing here. And was so new to me, and I'm still learning and growing and getting to do different things. And I love being involved with, I think for me, if just doing one thing, I would not be happy with, so if it was like just one thing that I went and did next, I don't think I would love to do that. So right now, so I think being able to do all the different things, that's what I really like about the day-to-day. It's different from every day, and getting to interact with the teams, and I like being part of the team. I didn't know that until I got to Oklahoma, and I really like that part of it is kind of working within the programs and being with the team broadcast. And so I really enjoy that. So, I mean, I love it here. Every day is, it's so cliche, but my parents used to always say, find a job that you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And,
Sure.
I do not feel like I'm working most days. So I just, and the people are just the nicest people. People don't, I try to tell people from Oklahoma think they're nice. I'm like, when my parents come up here, they're like, no, it's different.
Yeah.
It is different. Like, there is such thing as Nebraska nice. It's a real thing, but it's just, I'm loving it. And so for now I am very, very happy and kind of taking it a day at a time here with the Huskers.
Love it.
Very good.
Heck yeah. Great answer.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got about 5 minutes left. We wanted to basically just bring up, Greg's situation, kind of his journey that he's been on. And I wanted to share just kind of a personal story of my own. I've grown up a Nebraska fan, a Nebraska football fan specifically. My grandma has painted me portraits of my favorite football player from 1994 all the way till about 2018 when Scott Frost was hired. And in my role now, I've had the pleasure and the opportunity to film Nebraska football games. With that means I get to go up and enjoy a meal up in like the press box, and on occasion I'll have the pleasure of sitting down or running into Greg and just saying hi, and he's always very happy and smiley, and he's just the nicest guy. I wanted to know or get some more information, I guess, on your guys' relationship and kind of how lucky fans should feel that is the voice of Husker football, and kind of just like what that relationship has meant to you.
Yeah, so much. And I'll try not to get emotional, but I didn't know what I was doing when I got here. He's so patient with me and, working night in and night out. I don't have family here in Nebraska. So he's really become family. The Huskers Radio Network folks have become family. And so it's just, he's so, it's fun too. I mean, you don't take that for granted, the kind of chemistry that you can have just immediately with, how Greg, Damon, and I work together on a game day. I mean, it's just, you don't always get the luxury of having that kind of special chemistry. And so, just he's the ultimate point guard. I actually wrote him a letter recently and told him that, like, he's the ultimate point guard in a broadcast. He allows the people to shine in what they do best, and gives them, sets them up and tees them up in a way that allows them to be at their best. And he's been so great with me transitioning to doing the sideline, because I mean, I've done it on TV, but I hadn't done it on radio, and it's so different, and just all the things you navigate with that, and just coaching me along. He's been a coach, he's been a teammate, he's been family. He's been obviously my partner every night on Sports Nightly. So just watching him fight the way he has, and he's just had such a positive attitude. I mean, every day he's, smiling, he's fighting, he's he never complains. He might say, oh, a little tired today, but that's the most you'll ever get from him. So he is just, the way that he's gone about this last year or so, just the perspective, so much perspective, and it's been inspirational to watch him do that. And I'm glad we got to have the games that we had this year. And so yeah, I'm so appreciative of everything that he's done for me, and Husker Nation, obviously, but he's certainly special, and he's so good to listen to. But I don't even know if people realize how good he is at managing a team and kind of navigating a broadcast, that he just is so masterful at getting in and out of breaks and bringing people in, and knowing there's so many moving parts to it, and he just does it flawlessly. Like he's gone a couple of times. I was trying to do our college football picks segment. I'm like, how does he do this? Like, I'm trying to keep up with everything. He just is so, just so good at so many different things. And so, no, he's been wonderful. I'm so thankful for, our relationship. And like I said, I mean, he's become family to me here in Nebraska. And so it's been a inspiration to watch him do what he did this past year, and do it with a smile on his face, and such a positive light day in and day out, when I know people have no idea how hard it was and what he was going through. But you'd have never known when you were talking to him, because he's still, even though he's going through what he's going through, he still wanted to make it about everybody else, and involve, how are you doing? Well, what's going on with you? He turned quickly, as quickly as you want to ask him about himself, he's going to just as quick turn it back and ask you about you and how you're doing. So just you look at the people that have responded to him winning Nebraska Sportscaster of the Year, and just the outpouring of support over the last year. I mean, he means so much to so many people, and it would take me another hour to really, I think, go into all of that. But yeah, I'm very appreciative of Greg Sharp.
Even when he won that award, he did that. He immediately kind of shifted it to something else. Just seems like such a humble guy.
Yeah. Oh, he is. Yeah. He hates it when we make it about him and talk about him. He doesn't like that. So, we're taking the opportunities when we can. We had to surprise him. He would have never been okay with that if I would have asked him. So I'm like, we're pulling a fast one on you, Greg.
Yeah. He quite literally has no idea who I am, but he has always, I'll try to say hi every once in a while when we're passing through the line or whatever. And he's like, hey, how are you doing? How are you? He acts like I've known him for years. And so that is something I greatly appreciate. And every fan of whatever sport that you are a fan of, you have that voice, right? The voice of whatever team that you enjoy. That is like a legendary. It is a symbolism of, what your team is. And that's somebody that Greg is for me, and I would imagine a lot of other Nebraska football fans. So yeah, we just wanted to get some insight on that. And I appreciate you for answering.
Yeah. I think too, I don't think I said this, he makes it fun. I mean, I think you can hear it a lot of times. I mean, sometimes maybe the outcome of the game, it doesn't sound as fun, but I think a lot of times you can hear in the broadcast how much fun we're having. And that's because he allows for that kind of fun atmosphere too, which is also not easy when you've got that kind of monumental task on your hand, but he just allows it to be loose and free. And so we're feeding off of each other, and he cultivates that. So not everybody can do that. It's a special skill set that he has that everybody would just like to have a little bit of, but very few people are fortunate enough to have that kind of skill set.
Yeah. Well, from a fan perspective, it's clear that he's got passion for Husker sports. And whenever someone posts a clip of the Westerkamp Hail Mary, it's very rare that you will hear the BTN commentary, but anytime I see a video with the BTN commentary, I'm like, what are you doing? That does not unlock the true like enormity of that moment because oh baby. Like, come on. You can't match that passion.
He's also like the king of like sneaking in those ad reads.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
Oh, he was like the Big Mac sack. Man,
Oh,
we missed that.
I
We
missed the
that.
Big Mac sack. We would have got some Big Macs this year. I don't even eat them, but I always got excited for the Big Mac sack.
You know, Ty Robinson senior year. Hello. Come on, Big Mac sacks.
Yeah,
come on.
McDonald's is like, we don't want to lose money.
Jeez.
So.
You're disappointed that, but it's not easy to throw that logo, to throw a read in like that in the middle either. But
Right.
yeah,
He's a pro. He's a pro.
he is.
Okay. Anything else, guys, that you
I
want
don't
to?
think so. Yeah.
Okay.
This was awesome.
Well, so Jess, is there anything that maybe you're just itching to get off your chest here? Like anything that you're just you want to pound the table for? Or what's that saying? Stand on the table, whatever.
I doubt it.
You know, is there just anything?
I don't think so.
I want to give you the chance, you know.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, where can people find you if you want them to find you?
Besides behind the Domino's.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be somebody out there with
God.
security waiting to question me for what I was doing back there, trying to break into the kitchen. At Jessica Coody, and then the Huskers social media platforms. So you can find me really across all those Huskers radio, the Huskers YouTube, Nebraska Athletics YouTube channels. So
You're everywhere.
try to be.
Yeah.
Not always successful, but I try to be.
You are.
Nebraska Swiss Army knife. So she's got a new title, at least on our podcast. That's what she is.
That would be way shorter than what I got.
You've got
That's right.
7 of them. I couldn't even fit it in the title, so I had to pick one.
We're big fans of like of nicknames around here on this podcast. So if you know who Tyler Kai,
Yeah.
he's Tyler Two Phones or TK Two Phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
TK 2 phones.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
So
got to
similar.
see if you could get DB and I in here together.
That would be fun.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I don't know. That might be a little too much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like,
You guys were not as out of control as
That's-
he set you up to be. So
Hey, it's fine. That's his interpretation. We go in, like, I'll pop in when Damon does his live shows with Ravi in the mornings and stuff, like on a Friday before the game. Like, I'll pop in there and he's always telling us I'm the crazy guy. Like, I'm not the crazy guy.
you know, just you know what really helps too is look, Nebraska ended 7-6. They ended on a win.
Mhm.
I think that really helps too. We're not as unhinged
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
as we usually are
Yep.
because it can get pretty
Basketball teams on a heater.
Yeah. Which
They're playing right now.
they're playing
Right now.
right
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
on
hopefully-
Peacock.
Yeah. I've got Peacock. Well,
What are you doing?
Kinda. Yeah.
Like who's playing instead?
well,
I guess it's too early.
well,
but
because
still,
NBC wants them on Peacock because a lot of people are going to pay for
Right.
it to watch it.
yeah, Nebraska.
That's
There's a
part
lot
of
of
that TV
suckers
deal.
here at Nebraska. Won't pay for freaking anything.
Husker fans, they like to complain about Peacock, but they also don't mind having the money to the program to have good things.
Freaking
So
A.
it all goes for
Which I think on that note, I think the Nebraska Illinois volleyball match was I think the most streamed broadcast on Big Ten Plus, which is
I
kind of
believe that.
surprising. So,
Yeah.
Of course, it
but
was.
to your point, yes, Nebraska fans will tune in. To
They'll
the
pay
streaming.
for it.
Yeah.
They're like, I'll
So-
pay for a month just so I can watch my team that one night. They don't care. They'll do it. I do it all the time.
basketball team's winning. They
Plus,
look
you could get
good.
a free subscription for like a week or something.
Right.
So
Yeah.
and just cancel it.
They have a likable team. And I
They
want to
do.
watch. I don't want to. I'm not buying Peacock. I'm taking a stand right now. I'm not doing it. Nice try.
We can listen
Mike-
to the radio to Kent and Jake on
That's
the
what I might
Huskers
do.
Radio
Yeah.
Network.
Yes.
Yes.
Do it all the time.
I mean, nothing beats those two on
Jeez.
calling the basketball games. I'll tell you that.
Nope.
Got it.
There's another like symbolic voice.
Exactly.
Right.
Someday, Ken has got back to us. He's so nice. He responds. He's always like, I can't do that. I work for the radio network. I'm not allowed to do that.
We got
I'm like,
Coody.
we got Cootie on. I mean,
What's
we've
your
had-
excuse now?
I hope this is legal. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's too late now.
Well, because like you had agreed to do it, which is awesome. And I even told Mike, I'm like, I don't know. We've had some people say that they work for the university, and
I'm like, that's a good answer. You could always give that answer. I was expecting that answer on this podcast. When we ask people, they either say yes or they don't respond.
Mm.
But Kent has done the pleasure of saying he couldn't do it because of this reason. You could have done that too. So I appreciate you.
I don't know.
So when we ask you next time, now you can use that excuse.
Yeah, now you can say,
My
"Oh,
boss said."
you got me in trouble." So,
Okay. We're good
yeah,
here.
I think we're
Okay,
good.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
We
we
don't end
were
too
able to
early.
end the show getting Jessica in trouble. So here we
Yeah.
are.
Perfect.
What a
Yeah.
better
Perfect way to
best
end.
way to end it.
Happy birthday.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. I almost forgot. You know, I get some text this morning. I'm like, oh yeah, damn. It's fine. It's okay. I don't feel a day older. I feel the same. Okay. Old. I felt old for a long time.
You look old, so it's fine.
Shut up. Go to NBNRpodcast.com. We do have a website. On every social media platform, we keep it really simple for you. NBNR Podcast stands for No Block, No Rock. It's a good principle to live by in football and in life. Okay. I think that's it.
Let's sign off.
Okay. I'm one of your hosts, Jared Hall.
Mike Delaware.
Kyle Byers.
Jessica Coody.
Look at that.
That's right. As always, beat Iowa and GBR.
Oh.